Who says you can't? You do. By Daniel Shiriak. Chapter 16. Life's ultimate duo, the spirit and its visions. Passion, the voice of your spirit. If there is no passion in your life, then have you really lived? Find your passion, whatever it may be. Become it and let it become you, and you will find great things happen for you, to you and because of you. Alan Armstrong. During a chat with a friend of mine, I was shocked to hear that he was not happy after achieving something massive on his wants list. He was an international DJ and radio show host. His songs were making the top of charts and he was playing in the biggest nightclubs in the world. One of his dreams was to play in Europe, which he had just achieved before I saw him. As he walked into the room to greet me, he said it was not what was I expected. He told me that he went back to his hotel room after the show and wondered whether he even wanted to pursue a music career. The show went well, the people were great, and everything was in place. So what was happening? After a long conversation, we got to the bottom of it, and he walked out with a breakthrough. Throughout his career, he had focused on what he thought was his passion, to play music. I asked him this question: if I gave you all your equipment on a deserted island, how long do you think you would last playing music all alone? He replied, probably a few hours. Then I asked another question: but your passion is to play music, isn't it? He replied, yes. So I don't know why I would only last that long, and I don't know what is making me unhappy. I turned to him and said, you're with your music. When he focused on other people's emotions, when they listened to his music, rather than just his own desire, he experienced a key turning point in his career. We all want to know how to add value to this world, the people around us and ourselves. Doing things for others will always create more meaning in your life. The people who have been the most influential and successful were those who were committed to doing this. It's that drive within us that sparks the feeling that is far too great to be restricted by words. Once you put a lot of energy toward a passionate life, you enter the realm of the elite. The thought of it fills you with emotions you have never experienced, keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning. It is enforced and embedded so deep within you that it surely becomes the basis of your decision. It will guide you over hurdles, find inspiration once gone unnoticed, pick you up when you fall, and be the air you breathe. You can definitely feel the difference when you enter a room with someone who has passion and someone who does not. In whatever area of life, you will notice the ones with a strong passion are those who are running far beyond what others think is the finish line. When everyone else says it's too hard or impossible, then they are the ones that prove them wrong. If you imagine, you can achieve it. If you dream it, you can become it. William Arthur Ward. I hear people tell me they have a vision. So I ask what it is, and they say things like to buy that home. Now that's great, but what's after that? See, a passion is an invisible force that consumes your whole life and creates vision after vision. A true passion sees no end but only everlasting growth. A passion would be to provide for your children, to inspire people to be the best they can be, to add value to the world, to help others, to provide a service like no one else, or to do something that you love. Being the best you can be is another great one. If there's any passion that is at the heart of every person, it is to exude that greatness that lies deep within them. We must prove our greatness to ourselves, because if we don't, we are the one who has to answer the question why. We all know that we have a lot more to give, but we just need to let that inner person speak. A great way to drag that spirit out and begin to steer it is to give as many reasons as you can why you want to do something. We put all these material wants in front of us and call them visions, yet sometimes we struggle to achieve them. The reason is that we forget to build the foundation. We must search deeper and ask why we want what we do. Whatever it is, you need to build as many reasons as possible why you are doing what you are doing, and let them really align themselves with who you are deep down. That's how you remain at full strength. I personally do not let material things drive me because I know they will flow through my passion. I have a clear indication of what I want, but then I let my spirit guide me. If we don't do it this way, we get caught up in greed and we will never be fulfilled. You will notice that you continue to come back to that point of emptiness and then wonder why you and even bothered in the first place. A true passion does not just appear bright and strong one day, it evolves over time. I can't tell you what your passion in life is. No one but you can do that. This is one of the biggest challenges I see today. It seems when the thought of trying to discover our true passion or calling comes up, it causes us to worry and become stressed. All that does is crowd and suffocate your spirit. As we all know, stress is a major contributor to our despair, so it is definitely to discover the blueprint of our greatness hidden under the colic of social life that become self-beliefs. We must unwrap the paper and then the gift will be displayed. That college is all the limitations such as hate, fear, self-doubt, judgment, lack of self-love, and many more that restrict us from seeing our true path. Lack of passion in life is truly a grave issue in society. I have coached pupils searching for their passion in life more than any other challenge. What I am about to tell you will probably change your perception of your passion forever. Our whole life we seem to be in search of this one passion that we think will bring us fulfillment, and the concept is usually based around a career. We believe that without finding what it is, we are hopeless. Well, guess what? No one who is passionate is only passionate about one thing. I would consider myself a passionate person now, but I did not wait to find out what career I wanted to do in order to decide that. In all honesty, I don't even consider educating and inspiring people a career. Rather, it is a passion that flowed from first being passionate in many other areas of life. I am passionate about being a great person, treating everyone as equals, sustaining the quality of nature, my body, my family, people in general, and so on. I have many passions in life. I did not just wake up one day knowing what my career was and begin being a passionate person, nor did any of the vastly successful people I have met on my journey. If you don't practice being passionate in all the other areas of your life, then you will never discover your true potential. There is one great thing that all successes in any era have in common. It calls for no debate. It requires unconditional love, and it is the pinnacle of all emotions. It is the passion for life itself. When you have passion for every part of your life, things fall into place. All successful people have one thing in common. They are all addicted to life. The enormity of visualization. Formulate and stamp indelibly on your mind a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. Hold this picture tenaciously. Never permit it to fade. Your mind will seek to develop the picture. Do not build up obstacles in your imagination. Norman Vincent Peale. Pupils continually visualize throughout their day. There are very few who embrace the present, but many who envision the past or the future. The issue is that it's of no benefit because those visions usually result in stress or worry. The same people have no idea how much power their visions have to become reality and that they cause them to experience the same emotions they so often complain about. As we previously read about neuroplasticity, constant repetition is effective in shaping who we are becoming. People get all spooked when they hear the word meditation, but they are missing out on one of the most powerful gifts mankind has. We are led to believe that when meditating, we are thinking of nothing. Let me assure you, when you are thinking of nothing, you are still thinking because you are thinking of nothing. It's an opportunity to take ourselves away from what we see with our eyes, away from space and time. Start using those thoughts to really create a feeling of success right now. Why do we close our eyes when we pray, when we cry, when we kiss, when we dream? Because the most beautiful things in our life are not seen but felt only by the heart, by unknown. Taking the time out for visualization is one tool that really successful people have used, even if they don't call it that. Meditation, prayer, and imagining all are all the same thing. Successful people allocate time to completely focus on what they want, not what they don't want. I would get so strongly into visualization that the hairs on the back of my neck would stand up because what I saw in my mind was just as real as if I were really there. Sure enough, they do happen. Dr. Andrew Newberg conducted a study to check the neural behavior and physical responses to meditation by Tibetan monks and prayer by Franciscan nuns. The psychological changes in the brain and discoveries were outstanding. Dr. Newberg found that the front part of the brain, which is usually involved in focusing and concentration, is more active during meditation. There was, however, a great decrease in activity in the parietal lobe. The parietal area of the brain is responsible for giving us a sense of our orientation in space and time. He hypothesized that blocking all sensory and cognitive input into this area during meditation results in the sense of no space and no time. When this part of the brain, which weaves sensory data into a feeling of where the self ends, is deprived of sensory input through an individual's focus on inward concentration, it cannot do its job of finding the border between the self and the world. Dr. Newberg described how this affects consciousness. The brain had no choice. It perceived the self to be endless as one with all of creation, and this felt utterly real. The absorption of the self into something larger is not the result of emotional fabrication or wishful thinking. It springs from neurological events, as when the orientation area goes dark. Other experiments have also been performed, including those by Richard Davidson. He is a professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin and has led experiments in cooperation with the Dalai Lama on effects of meditation on the brain. His results suggest that long-term or short-term practice of meditation results in different levels of activity in brain regions associated with such qualities as attention, anxiety, depression, fear, anger, and the ability of the body to heal itself. These functional changes may be caused by changes in the physical structure of the brain. With enough focus, your mind does not know whether what you are thinking about is real right now or not. When we daydream or close our eyes and drift off, we feel the same emotions as if we are actually living our dream. It feels so real because for that brief moment, your mind does not know the difference. The more energy we put forward towards something, the stronger influence it has on our life. It's the same with what we focus on in our mind. That's the power of realization. Those very images you choose to see in your mind on a daily basis, be they beneficial or not, are being attracted to your life. That's why things we don't want keep showing up, because we continually think about them. If we direct our mental images to what we want, it causes not just ourselves but everything else to surrender to manifestation. Ordinary people believe only in the possible extraordinary. People visualize not what is possible or probable, but rather what is impossible. And by visualizing the impossible, they begin to see it as possible. Dr. Cherry Carter Scott. I don't care what you want to call it. Closing your eyes, directing all your focus to one area as if you were really there, feeling the emotions and even imagining how you would physically react is going to enhance your life. I used to sit in my room, close my eyes and drift off. In that moment, I felt as if I could hear people telling me how much I did help them. I felt as if I already had a better relationship with my family. These feelings have since become a reality. I would feel the warmth in a person's hand when they shook mine, or a hug when my nephew, just to inspire my day. I would do it anywhere and anytime I had the chance. The power of visualization has a weird way of speeding up time toward those things you desire. Things start to happen quicker, and I guess that's how you see some people's success and wonder how they achieved things in such a short amount of time. The more you visualize the qualities of life and want what you want, the stronger your vision becomes. It will be a way of life and a means to take the appropriate action. You can also cut time when something distressing displays itself by simply closing your eyes and drifting away to a better place for that short time. When you start practicing this, it might seem difficult to stay focused, but the more energy you put forward toward it, the better you become at it. Even when you drift off but your eyes closed, it is crucial to redirect toward things you appreciate or an experience that would immediately make you happy. Have you ever noticed that the trip back from a journey always seems shorter? Why is that? The reason is that we have been there before. If we go somewhere in our mind, feel it, see it, and be it, then we obtain it at a much faster pace. If you don't believe that your mind is the basis of your creation, then ask yourself these questions. Why do we have a mind, and what is its purpose? Use it. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Albert Einstein. No words I write could amount to the certainty I have in visualization. It is the key and foundation to all your dreams and is the basis for your decisions and reactions toward life experiences. Be different from the rest and give yourself this wonderful opportunity. When doing this, it is crucial to feel every detail of the image, from the smallest to the largest. Embrace the power and the emotion of it, and it will be the foundation of creating the life you desire. Visualization experiment. If you have ever played basketball or a basketball player personal, you would know that many players choke when it's time to take a free throw. Even some of the best basketball players on the planet have this mental block. No one questions their ability to play the game, but they have trouble making those shots, and they will be the first to admit it's all in their mind. Dr. Jude Biasito at the University of Chicago reported about a study that was conducted to determine the effects of visualization on the free throw performance of basketball players. First, the athletes were tested to determine their free throw proficiency. They were then randomly assigned to one of three experimental groups. The first went to the gym every day for 1 hour and practiced free throws. The second group also went to the gym, but instead of physically practicing, they were told to lie down and simply visualize themselves successfully shooting. The third group did nothing. In fact, they were instructed to forget about basketball. At the end of 30 days, the three groups were again tested to determine their free throw proficiency. The players who had not practiced at all showed no improvement in performance. Many in that group actually exhibited a drop. Those who had physically practiced 1 hour each day showed a performance increase of 24%. Here's the clincher: the visualization group, by merely imagining themselves successfully shooting free throws, also improved 24%. Question mark. It does not matter what area of life you apply this to. If you run a perfect scenario over and over in your mind with the inclusion of sight, sound, and smell, performance is sure to improve. Visualizing and taking physical action is a combination that is unbeatable. Training your mind gives us a clear vision that we may know where to stand and what to stand for. Because unless we stand for something, we shall fall for anything. Peter Marshall. Task: visualize your updated appreciation list. Be still and make sure you are stationary. Once you fully focus and do it a few times, you won't want to stop. You will discover a shift in focus toward great things in life rather than things that are of no benefit. The quality of your whole life will improve. Start with focusing on breathing in and out through your nose from the tip of your nostrils. Follow the breath all the way until it flows back out. When you inhale, draw the air down to your stomach and back out slowly through your nose. You can count up to 7 when exhaling to slow down the process. Do this until you feel light and weightless. Second, a euphoric state should arise in your mind. Then start visualizing. I personally did this at night when I was relaxed, but still read my list in the morning. This addition to your daily ritual will transform your life, but you have to commit to it. Don't just do it for 3 days. Stop and then email me saying it does not work. It's an ongoing process, but results will be measurable immediately, especially in the way you feel. Third, you can visualize at any time during the day and listen to music that inspires you is also a great addiction. Your visions will start to play out around you. Awareness will rise and you will notice things that are relevant to your success that once went unnoticed. Our mind is the canvas on which we create, and imagination is its tool. Things once thought of as just as doing will turn into a vision so strong that your passion will see to its becoming real. That's the end of chapter 16, page 218 of the book. Now move to fourth step: steer your relationship. Chapter 17, Rocky, Docked, or Sailing Smooth. A loving relationship is one in which the loved one is free to be himself, to laugh with him, but never at me, to cry with me but never because of me, to love life, to love himself, to love being loved. Such a relationship is based upon freedom and can never grow in a jealous heart. A loving relationship is one in which the loved one is free to be himself, to laugh with me but never at me, to cry with me but never because of me, to love life, to love himself, to love being loved. Such a relationship is based upon freedom and can never grow in jealous heart. Leo F. Buscaglia. Relationship plays such a vital role in our daily life, so I knew had to cover this topic. I went around to relation with his girlfriend, asked me what he should do. This one is very difficult because trying to get the truth out of someone is a battle in itself. Some people will defend their partner because they don't want to portray them as a villain. Sometimes they don't mention their own faults or they attempt to put all the blame on the other person. There seems to be a lot of attacking and defending on either side, and it's also hard to get the truth out because many believe love is the sole reason they should be with their partner. I believe saying, but I love him or her does not offer a strong enough reason on its own to stay with someone. I am sure we are quite aware that we can fall in love many times and on occasion with those who are not right for us. It does not mean they are not right as people. It just means they are not right for us. We get sucked in by attraction and other things initially that get a good hold on us. But then every date with the person feels like a blind date because we just don't know what is going to happen next. I sat this guy down and I asked this question: what do you love about her and why are you with her? This was his answer: she makes me laugh. She keeps me on my toes. I am really attracted to her. She keeps me strong when I feel weak. She gets along well with my family. I love her and I can communicate with her. I went on to ask him what he loves about himself, and he gave me only 3 answers and then struggled. How can we confidently give the best of ourselves if we are not even sure what we can offer? How can we ever know what we want when we don't even know who we are? We must be the great person we wish to see in a partner, or else we will sadly never find happiness. A couple of years ago, on Valentine's Day, my mother asked me who I was going out for dinner with. I let her know that I was going by myself, but assured her I was not crazy. I wanted to go on a date with me and asked what type of person I am, what I want out of my life, and what's important to me. I am so thrilled I did, because that night brought up a lot of answers and created many opportunities for change. What regard to the first question, I asked the guy, what do you love about her? I asked the guy, what do you love about her and why are you with her? I explained that every single answer had me or I in it and was nothing short of selfish. It seems that our relationships start to become all about our own desires rather than being a paired force and helping each other grow. So I said to him, instead of saying, she makes me laugh, how about her amazing sense of humor? So when she is not there to make you laugh on a particular occasion, it's okay, because she is still funny and you will always recognize that. Your partner has her own life as well. It's not her full-time job to fulfill you. That's your own job. Instead of saying, she gets along well with my family, how about she is family oriented? Can you notice the huge difference this small shift in attitude could have on relationship? You must focus on your partner's qualities, not only on what they can offer you. So many relationships start becoming all about what one person wants and one person taking control of the situation. You have to shift your focus to the other person and why you are really with them, because it's going to make you appreciate them on a completely different level. Acknowledging their great assets is the pillar that will hold you both up when challenges arise. Let's face it, as long as we are alive, there are going to be some cracks. But if it's all about you, then you can bet it's not going to hold up to well. Consider how hard it is to change yourself, and you will understand what little chance you have in trying to change others. Another major breaking point I discovered through talking to many people about the topic and through my own experiences is that we believe our partner fills gaps within us that we don't believe we can fill ourselves. This seems to be the biggest unconscious issue many face. When that person is not there to fill that part up for whatever reason, we start fighting, begin to doubt, and think crumble. Being an unconscious issue means we are not really aware that this is the case, but it warrants these deeper questions. Are you really in love with who they are, or are you in love with what you think they fulfill in you that you don't believe you can fulfill yourself? Did you have a clear indication of what you wanted out of a life partner when you met them? Did you really get to know them, or did you get sucked in solely by the attraction bug? At the end of the day, no one can fulfill anything that you don't really have access to. When we truly believe that we need a person to live, it puts strain on the relationship. We make ourselves believe that if they are not around, we are out of whack, can't function, are unable to get by or do anything in our life. I am here to tell you now that everything you think you need, you already have. It might just be qualities you are not yet using. Be with someone because you truly want them, not because you feel you need them or have to have them. An expectation from others can really be an invitation for disappointment. When we expect things to happen and also believe that the other person has to do things, it prevents us from appreciating the great things they do for us. Realistically, they don't have to do anything, but if they do, it should be because they want to, not because they feel like they have to. If you have to keep asking them to do something and then they eventually do it, but you just feel it's not coming from their heart, then it's only because you made them do it. No real satisfaction should be drawn from that, and to be honest, maybe that person is not really your greatest match. If they are right for you, things just happen. You should not feel like you are continually forcing them to. We must be at peace with ourselves and actually want that person for who they really are. You must respect they also have a life that should be lived. A partner's role is to help the other person with their aspirations and add as much value as they possibly can to their life. A healthy relationship is evident when both people seem to bring the best out of each other and shine simultaneously. A life partner is not about battling each other, but overcoming life's challenges together. Here are 3 ways to create a more fulfilling relationship. Command your own emotions, not your partner's. If you don't do this, your relationship won't stand a chance. Set up smelling visions together. If you don't have something to look forward to, you will burn out. Sometimes people are still together, but it does not mean their relationship is alive. What do you want your relationship to be like? Question mark. How can you make it that way? What can you both do to bring that about? What would you like to achieve together? Create a strategy plan that you both work to, to get those desired visions and outcomes. If you must let go, the jump is so frightening between where I am and where I want to be. Because of all I may become, I will close my eyes and leave. Marry Annie, Radmacher. Our happiness as individuals will almost always be based on the decisions we make, or the ones we want to make, but are not following through. People experience unhappiness because the expectations they have set for their life have not been met. This goes for our finances, emotional state, and predominantly for our relationship. It really does come down to what you want out of your life. If you know in your heart that your current relationship is something you don't wish to participate in any longer, you must feed your truth. There are many people who turn around after leaving their relationship and say, I really want it back. It may be the fifth time they have attempted to end it, but every time the same story is repeated. The question must then be asked, do they want it back, or do they fear the unknown because they have not yet built the inner strength to let it go? By probing deeper, the answers I have heard over and over again are that they really want to get far away from the whole situation and have the feeling of being free from it. They just remind themselves of why they can't, not how they can. When they accept that can't is a choice, they automatically realize they can. My truth was telling me for so long that I did not want to be in my past relationship, and I would definitely have a lot more money if I saved $1 for every time I ignored it. I would continually think, this person is not right for me. Get out and run. I would then get down on my knees and say, God just gave me a sign. Give me a sign. The funny thing was that asking for a sign was actually the sign itself. The signs are right there. We see them all day, and that deep voice inside will always be there to remind us. I now believe that if it's an I don't know, then it's a no. That goes for business, relationship, and everything else. Unless I absolutely certain it's a no-go zone. It's a no-go zone. That's not to say I can't make myself certain, or that I need to know instantaneously, but I won't fully commit my life to it until I am. A sad thing in life is that sometimes you meet someone who means a lot to you, only to find out in the end it was never bound to be, and you just have to let go. Anand, we are also able to build that certainty when we want to leave a partner. If you have ever been in a relationship where you were not fulfilled and finally gained the courage to leave, you would know that there comes a point when the pain is just too strong and the grass is too green on the other side. Just like anything in life, a shift of emotion caused you to act rapidly, and you finally left. You hit that point in your life when you said, that's it, I have had enough. That day came when you refused to continue living someone else's life. I'm sure you can also became frustrated with trying to take control over that life, their life, because that's not what it's about. It's not our duty to attempt to turn someone into us, because that will surely create a clash. And essentially, who gives us the right to do that anyway? The reason we become involved with someone is so we can both add different elements to each other's life. Never attempt to make the other person live your life. They should respect yours, and you should respect theirs. Like I said, if they are right for you, then things are not that difficult. You don't continually force them, and they don't feel like they have to do something. They just do it. When you attempt to control someone else's life, it only reflects the lack of control you have over your own. Most of the time, we drive ourselves crazy trying to figure out what our partner is thinking. Why did they do that? Why did they hurt me? Or why are they acting that way? How about you? In doing this, we neglect to take accountability for our own life and realize it's never what they have done, it's what we allow them to do. Once we take charge, the decisions to follow will bring the outcome we deeply desire. You must take charge of your own emotions and mental state. They are who they are, but you must be responsible for you and start making decisions accordingly. If they are not willing to make change, then you must. And in my opinion, a person can only give you as much love as they find within themselves. In determining whether someone is a life partner or not, I think it's crucial that your core values do not clash with their values. At the end of the day, our values are the things we live by. I was speaking to a client of mine who always wanted to travel and eventually have children, but her partner's belief was that traveling was a waste of money and he did not want to have kids. Obviously, not really knowing what she wanted out of life partner when she met him, she did not probe those major details. By the time she found out, she had already built a love for him. He was not willing to compromise and he did not want her to travel on her own. The things this guy valued more in his life were obviously quite different from hers. So I told this woman to write down everything she wanted to do or accomplish in her life and add up whether his traits would allow them to go together. After she did the exercise, she discovered that she had put on hold nearly the whole list for him. She needed to take accountability for that and stop blaming him for her inaction. He was not wrong. It's just not what he wanted out of his life. In order for her to live her life, she needed to leave him. After a 5 years relationship, she ended it. She was hurting for a while and assured me it was not easy, but it was the best decision she ever made. She finally visited her family overseas and started her own business. She also promised me that she would never be with another guy who did not want to have children. That has now made the top of her must list. She has created clarity and learned from her past experience, and that's how we go and attract what we want. Thank you very much for listening. This is at the page or number 229.